Hey, welcome to another Creative Spark Plugs. I'm Eric Scott, and I'm here again to share a quick and easy idea to get those creative sparks going. This is an idea, a technique that I learned a long time ago from my good friend David Maudler, the guy that I wrote the two books with about visual journals. And he used to use it with his elementary school students. And it's something that I've adapted and I use for myself, and I use it a lot with my students as well, both adults and kids. So this idea is really using just one color of paint and some small paper. So I'm going to use watercolor paint, but you could use like a really liquidy acrylic paint, like a high flow or a fluid acrylic. You could also do it with ink. So if you have a bottle of actual like black ink or even any dark color, but I'm going to stick with black. Anyway, I'm going to use index cards. Index cards are some of my favorite papers to use because they're inexpensive, they're not high quality, so I don't get really bogged down in trying to make like the most amazing piece of artwork on it, because it's just practice. Anyway, let's go ahead and flip it over and I'll show you this technique and talk about this idea. Like I said, I'm going to use some index cards. So I've got a stack. Probably won't use them all. Let me go ahead and peel off one of them. These are lined on the back. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use the blank side. I've got some watercolor paint, and I'm only going to use the black. And then I've got a variety of brushes. This idea actually comes from an artist, a 20th century artist, Franz Klein, who did these very large abstract non-objective paintings, and he would use usually black and white, and he would paint on these very large canvases. But it was he was part of the abstract expressionist movement, and a lot of those artists would really just sometimes they were called action painters, and he was among those. So the idea is to like have some kind of action, and so I'm going to use a nice big broad paintbrush, especially compared to my paper. And I'm just going to try to get a real dark inky black. And then I accidentally splattered a little bit of paint there, so I can just cover that up. So maybe I just take a big swipe and I cover up part of it, get a little bit more paint. Maybe I'm going to come in the opposite direction. And so I'm trying to do this very kind of automatically. And what I'm trying to do is play around with positive and negative space. So the positive space is the black paint. The negative space is the white space. So what I'm trying to do is kind of just create something that feels dynamic and that feels kind of feels balanced, like it's taking up the the black and the white spaces are balanced. So if I turn the brush one way, I can actually get some thinner lines. If I wanted to, I could dip my brush into the water and get a lighter value. That can kind of help. And so I just kind of do it until, okay, that looks kind of like it's done, like it's balanced. But I'm trying not to judge it. So that's a key of this, is to try not to judge it. I had my paper this way, side to side, the landscape format for that first painting. Maybe this time I'm going to do it this way, and maybe I'll switch out brushes. And this is a type of thing where I like to do several of them. If I could sit down and do 10 of them, that's really kind of ideal. So, I'm just trying to divide up the space. Move this up a little bit. Trying to create some visual dynamic compositions. Trying to keep things balanced. And just trying to like do it quickly, have a lot of action to it. I can do some stripe lines. And that quickly got a second one done. So let me go ahead and move that to the side. And we'll grab another one. And, maybe I like just using like one big brush. Sometimes what I think about with these is kind of thinking about like creating interesting silhouettes, almost like it's a silhouette, like a shadow, and trying to bring some balance into into that, like as if the sun is behind, a building, or, it's like a shadow shining in through the window or something. So that's another way to kind of approach it, as if you were thinking about these as shadows, and might be a good way to kind of walk around and pay attention and find some things on a nice sunny day. Like, what does a shadow look like, especially whenever it's at different angles. So there's a third one. So that quickly, I'm going to go ahead and do one more. But very quickly I can get these paintings, just kind of like firing them off pretty quickly. So here I'm like really just trying to think about a big shape, and then going off the edge of the paper. So breaking that edge, that's going to help out a lot. Maybe I will go ahead and switch it out, get this round brush. I can get a nice tip with it, get a nice thin line. Okay. So like I said, I would continue this and do five to 10. Oftentimes I'll try to do 10 of them. Let me go ahead and see. Probably the best way, I guess I can turn them this way. So if I have them straight up and down, that's one, that's the portrait format. So as I'm looking at these, is there one that's really kind of standing out? I kind of like, for me, this one's kind of standing out, but I like this first shape that I did. I don't like all the stripy things that I did, but this is the one to me that's really kind of standing out, that feels more dynamic. There's some organic lines to it. But anyway, so I might sit down and do another 4 or another 6, and I can just kind of look at them. Oh, and also, what if I turned them the other direction? So I can turn them landscape format. Again, kind of looking at them, still kind of really drawn to that one, but I can turn them in different directions. That's the other nice thing about this, and they're completely abstract, no recognizable subjects, and I can kind of play around. And so this can lead to lots of different things. So like I said, this could lead to lots of different things. Maybe I pick one of these and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Let me paint a larger kind of representation of that. Maybe it's like, oh, I'm going to take this as the basis for a larger work of art. A lot of times I'll do these just for the pure fun of doing them. They can get pretty fun. And it's that idea of that positive and negative space, that balance between the white spaces and the black spaces. And it's just kind of fun to do. It's fun to play around with. It's fun to kind of just get yourself, uh, get yourself moving, get yourself making. But I also will take these, let them dry, and I often glue them into my visual journal, and they become part of that as well. But I like that little space, that little paper, because it just allows me to work quickly. And the index cards are cheap, inexpensive, and I don't feel bad if one just doesn't turn out all that great. But the key is to work quickly, think about the actions of the brush, think about how you're dividing up the space, and most importantly, like suspending that judgment, trying not to be like, oh, this one's really bad, and oh, that one looks terrible. It's just about trying it out. And what I find is that usually there's 1 or 2 that I feel really stand out, that maybe have a lot of potential. But then the more you do it, the more you kind of start to figure out, like, oh, if I do this or if I do that, and then you start to develop an eye, and you start to develop some technique for doing it. So anyway, just these single color paintings, thinking about that negative space, that black and that white space, and how that balances out. So anyway, remember, if you are enjoying this series, please hit that like button. If you haven't, make sure that you subscribe so that you can become aware of anytime I load up a new video. And please share this. So Share it with your friends, share it with students if you're a teacher, share it. And I'd love to see what you do with these activities. So share on social media and don't forget to tag me. And anyway, I will catch you next time. So happy creating.